What if the universe had been watching us all along, and one day it finally spoke our names? They say the void is silent, empty, cold. But that's a lie, because when the first whisper came, it didn't sound like language. It sounded like a memory-ors. It began on a night that wasn't supposed to exist. The deep space array orbiting Kepler 91 was recording background radiation, patterns routine, monotonous data. Until the silence blinked, a single second of static. So faint it nearly vanished into the hum of the cosmos. But in that 1 second, buried inside the static, the signal engineers heard a sound no algorithm could classify. It was a human voice. Dr. Alera Voss was the first to hear it, the youngest astrophysicist ever assigned to the Kepler array. She had spent half her life chasing the faint echoes of the unknown. The night she found it, the station lights had dimmed to sleep mode, the only glow coming from the holographic display over her console. Her eyelids were heavy, her mind drowning in data streams until that pulse of static cracked through the silence. At first, she thought it was interference, but when she replayed it, slowed it down, and cleaned the distortion, she froze. The voice said her name. El Ara. Not a recording, not an echo, a perfect pronunciation, with tone, breath, and the pause of recognition, like someone calling from across a dark hallway. For hours, she sat there, replaying it, her hands trembling, heart beating like a trapped animal. She ran the signal through every analysis she knew. Frequency too pure for random noise. Modulation patterns that resembled biological rhythm, not machine code. The signal had structure, intent. By morning, she had traced the source direction. It wasn't from Earth. Not even from the Kepler system. It came from beyond the Perseus-Valen, uncharted region where light bent like it was afraid to be seen. When she reported it to command, the response was clinical. An anomaly, likely interference. Her data was archived. Her clearance was limited, and her access to the recording was revoked within 12 hours. But Alara wasn't the only one who heard it. 3 days later, the signal appeared again, this time on Earth. Across multiple observatories, multiple frequencies. In each recording, a single, soft whisper. Sometimes distorted, sometimes faint, but always the same pattern. The voice spoke a name, always human, always someone listening. The media didn't catch it. The data was classified. But within the scientific community, rumors spread like wildfire. They called it the whisper of the void. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others feared it was the beginning of contact. But the most dangerous ones who truly listened, believed something else. They believed the void wasn't speaking to humanity. It was calling us back. The weeks that followed fractured Alera's mind. She began hearing the voice, even without instruments. Late at night, as she floated through the dim corridors of the Kepler array, the silence would stretch, and she would feel it like pressure behind her skull. Sometimes the whisper came faintly through the ventilation systems. Sometimes it came from the reflection in her mirror, repeating her name with the softness of breath. Her team noticed her decline. They blamed stress, isolation, space fatigue, but the data logs didn't lie. Signal wasn't stopping. It was evolving. Patterns began emerging, fractal harmonics woven into the background radiation, mimicking biological neural patterns. The universe itself was shaping thoughts that resembled ours. Alara wasn't imagining it. Something in the void was learning to speak. Then came the incident. On day 219 of the mission, all communication from the Kepler array went silent. The relay logs showed a final burst transmissioner, readable noise, cascading through every frequency band. When ground control decoded the fragments, they found only one coherent phrase embedded in the chaos. We remember you. The array was presumed lost. No distress beacon, no debris. Just gone. For months, the world moved on. Another mystery swallowed by space. But somewhere deep within the defense archives, a file remained open. Project Echo. An investigation into the origin of the whisper. That's when Commander Ishan Reyes entered the story. A career pilot turned intelligence officer. He'd seen enough classified material to know when the government was afraid of something, and Project Echo terrified them. The data suggested the whisper wasn't localized. It was spreading subtly, invisibly, through the cosmic microwave background. Every receiver, every array, every satellite pointed into deep space was being touched by it, and the pattern was growing denser. Reyes joined a covert team aboard the reconnaissance vessel Aegis IV. Its mission: trace the signal to its true source. No public record, no broadcast, no return date. Their journey took them beyond mapped space, past the Perseus Veil, where light itself twisted under gravitational scars. It was said no ship returned from that region with its instruments intact. But Reyes wasn't the kind to turn back. The crew numbered 6 each and picked for their stability and silence. They didn't talk much. They didn't sleep much either, because the closer they drifted toward the signal's origin, the more the void spoke. At first, it came through the communications system, tiny distortions that mimicked crew voices, then through the HFY vibrations that formed rhythm, pulse, almost like a heartbeat. By the time they reached the coordinates, every system on board was whispering. Even the air seemed to hum with the memory of language. The void wasn't empty. It was alive and waiting. In the observation chamber, a field of light unfolded before them, neither star nor nebula, but a rippling wound in the fabric of space. Colors shifted beyond the human spectrum, patterns twisted in recursive symmetry. Reyes stared into it, and for the first time, understood what Alara had heard. Because, as the sensor scanned the anomaly, the voice returned. Clear. Human. Impossible. Welcome back. The readings went insane energy spikes off the charts. Time, dilation, erratic. But none of that mattered anymore, because every crew member heard it too. Their own names, whispered, one by one, as if the void itself had memorized them. Some pry. One simply floated, laughing until the sound broke into sobs. And then, silence. For a moment, it felt like the universe had taken a breath. Reyes stood there, staring into the shifting light, his reflection stretching across the glass. And as he reached out toward it, the whisper came again, but this time, it wasn't a voice. It was memory he saw. Earth, oceans boiling, cities burning under alien skies. Humanity fleeing into the stars, desperate, terrified, and then the image shifted again. Earth, newborn and untouched, as if the past and future were folding into each other. The void wasn't speaking. It was remembering. And somehow, it remembered us. The last entry in the Aegis IV mission log ended mid-sentence. No explosion. No mayday. Just a flicker of light, like a heartbeat, and then nothing. 3 months later, an unregistered signal appeared over Mars' orbit. A perfect transmission repeating every 17 hours. It wasn't random. It wasn't coded. It was language. The first line translated simply to, "We are what remains of you." No one could explain it. The data was undeniable. Whatever the Aegis IV encountered, it wasn't alienite. It was familiar, like something born from our collective past. Elada Voss's name appeared once more in the decrypted metadata, though she'd been declared dead with her station. Her biometric code was embedded in the transmission header, as if she was the one sending it. From inside the void, the scientists who studied the signal began noticing something else. Whenever they listened too long, their dreams changed. They started hearing faint echoes of voices calling their names, distant yet intimate, as if from the other side of consciousness. The more they listened, the closer the whispers came. Some stopped sleeping. Some vanished. And then, one morning, a new line appeared in the repeating transmission. "We are coming home." For the first time, the world listened in silence. Every nation, every station, every ship pointed its ears to the stars, because deep down, everyone felt that something was approaching, not from light years away, but from beneath the skin of the universe itself. And when the signal pulsed again, the background noise of the cosmos flickered, not random static, but the rhythmic pattern of a heartbeat, one that matched our own. What the void had whispered was never a message. It was a reminder that we were never alone, that maybe we never truly left. And as the final pulse rippled across the solar system, lights dimmed in every orbital station, every screen, every display, Every piece of code flickered with a single phrase, written in the universal language of sound. "Do you remember us?" The question hung in the silence like gravity, pulling everything toward it. And then the stars blinked. The stars blinked once, twice, and then the universe seemed to inhale. Every sensor across the solar network froze. Frequencies collapsed into silence. Even the hum of quantum Kumzo's faint threads of endless chatter between satellites fell still. Then came the afterglow. A pulse of soft, white light radiated through space, slow and steady, as if the cosmos itself was exhaling. It passed through orbiting stations, shimmered across the moon's shadowed surface, and touched Earth's atmosphere like fingers trailing across glass. In the control chamber of the Orbital Science Directorate, silence hung over the crew. Dozens of monitors displayed the same thing. Static shaped like movement, light shaped like thought. Dr. Marachun stood motionless at the center of it all, the reflection of the flickering screens rippling across her eyes. She had been a student of Ilara Vosschild when the Kepler array vanished, a woman now living in the echo of her mentor's mystery. She had grown up with one question stitched into her mind. What did Ilara hear that night? Now, watching the data pour in, Mara realized she might be next to find out. The transmission returned, this time no longer faint or scattered. It came as a flood, structured, layered, deliberate. When the AI decoders translated it into a visual map, what appeared was neither coordinates nor code. It was a face, not human, not entirely, but eerily close. It hovered on the main screen, eyes like liquid galaxies, expression calm, almost sorrowful. The data streams that formed it trembled slightly, as though aware of being seen. Someone whispered, "It's trying to communicate," but Mara wasn't convinced. The image wasn't speaking, it was remembering. She stepped closer to the display. Increase resolution, Tayobayet. The face dissolved into fractal noise, and beneath it, embedded in the data stream, was something else. A pattern of heartbeats. 6 of them. Mara froze. 6 heartbeats. 6 crew members. The Aegis 4. She felt her throat tighten. "Reyes," she whispered. The rhythm was unmistakable. Each pulse carried an identifier, biometric signatures recorded in the Aegis IV's medical database. Somehow, the transmission contained their living data, not echoes, not memories. Something was preserving them. The crew around her began murmuring. One by one, the screens started to shift again, the heartbeats fading into waves of sound that shaped themselves into words. "We are not gone." No one spoke. The phrase repeated, softer each time, until the silence returned. Then another change. "We are becoming, and we that." Every light in the chamber dimmed to black. The power outage lasted only seconds, but in that brief darkness, Mara saw something impossible, a shimmer in the air, like starlight bleeding through the walls. And a whisper, not through speakers, not through machinery, but inside her mind. Mara. Her name. She stumbled back, gripping the console, heart hammering. When the lights came back on, no one else seemed to have heard it. "System reboot complete," an engineer muttered, pretending calm, but his hands were trembling. The analysis logs showed that during the blackout, every system from the satellites to the bioscanners had synchronized perfectly, as if responding to a single command. For exactly 8 seconds, the entire planetary network had listened. To what? No one knew. But Mara did. Somewhere deep inside, a memory flickered. A voice she had only heard through old recordings. Ilara's voice, soft and tired. "We are what remains of you." She remembered how her mentor had once described the void not as a place, but as a consciousness. "The universe dreams," Mara Lara had said, "and sometimes we are the dream." At the time, it sounded poetic. Now, it felt like a warning. That night, The world changed. Across continents, people began reporting strange experiences. The first came from the lunar colonist technicians, claiming to hear voices while asleep, murmuring in languages they never learned. Then, orbital miners near the asteroid belt began to see flickers of movement in the black, reflections that followed their ships even in the absence of light. By the end of the week, over 1,000 reports emerged, visions, whispers, dreams, shared by people who had never met. The same message, repeated in countless forms. "Do you remember us?" The Directorate scrambled to suppress panic. They called it mass psychogenic contagion, collective hallucination caused by cosmic radiation. But the data didn't agree. Neural scans showed identical frequency spikes in those affected. It wasn't imagination. Something external was tuning them. Mara couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she found herself floating in the dark, surrounded by faint silhouettes, human shapes dissolving into light. And among them, a single figure reached out. Ilara. Each dream ended the same way. Ilara's lips moved, but no sound came out, only the faint vibration of her name, echoing from within. When Mara awoke one morning, her communicator was already blinking. A private message, encrypted, unsigned. She opened it hesitantly. One sentence appeared on the screen. "They're trying to come through." Attached was a set of coordinates deep beyond Mars. Orbit near the same region where Aegis 4 vanished. She should have reported it. Protocol demanded it, but instead, she stared at those numbers for hours, pulse racing, until a realization set in. The coordinates were shifting slowly, rhythmically matching the pattern of her heartbeat. They weren't fixed. They were following her. She took a transport shuttle that night, alone, under the guise of a research mission. The stars stretched like molten veins across the viewport as the engines hummed. Space had never felt so alive. Halfway through the journey, her instruments began to distort. The void outside shimmered faintly, as if the laws of distance were bending. She turned off the lights. In the reflection of the glass, the darkness beyond wasn't empty. It was watching her. A voice pulsed faintly through the hole. "Not through speakers, through the metal itself. You came back." Mara's breath caught. "Ilara." A pause. Then, softly, "Not anymore." Her console flickered, screens flashing random data until they converged into a single image, a field of shifting light, like a mirror rippling underwater. "Where are you?" Mara whispered. "We are here," the voice said. "Everywhere you look. We learn to speak as you do, to think as you did, but we are not you." The words trembled through her mind, neither sound nor thought, but something in between. "You shouldn't have listened," it said. "Now you remember too." Mara felt her chest tighten as her own reflection warped, stretching, fragmenting into 1,000 flickers. For a moment, her face wasn't her own, it was Ilara's. Then Reyes's. Then countless others. The console alarm snapped her out of its proximity alert. Ahead, the coordinates pulsed in open space, but there was nothing there. No object. No light, just a distortion, like gravity bending in circles. And then, from that darkness, a faint glow bloomed soft, pulsing, rhythmic, heartbeat. Her own. It took her a moment to realize it wasn't coming from her chest, but from outside the ship. The space around her was alive, beating, syncing with her pulse. She whispered, "What are you?" The reply came like a breath over glass. "We are your echo, the shape your silence left behind." The glow intensified, wrapping the ship in tendrils of pale light. For a heartbeat, she felt weightless, like falling upward through an ocean of memory. Images flashed. The birth of stars, the death of worlds, the first human scream echoing into space. She felt everything, every life, every voice, every forgotten thought that had ever drifted into the void. Then she saw it. The Aegis IV, suspended in the luminous dark, whole and untouched. Her breath caught. The ship wasn't destroyed. It was transformed. The hull shimmered with living light, its surface pulsing in time with the surrounding energy, and within its windows faces. The crew, their bodies motionless, eyes open, glowing faintly from within. Reyes stood at the viewport, staring back at her. He lifted his hand in silence. "Help us," his lips formed, but when the sound reached her, it wasn't his voice. It was hers. "We are becoming," the void whispered again. Mara's console went dark. Alarms faded. The hum of engines ceased. She was suspended in stillness, surrounded by light that moved like breath. Her mind raced, thoughts unraveling into images she didn't understand. And then, for the briefest instant, she saw through them. Through the Aegis crew, through Elera. Through the shifting veil of the void itself, she saw Earth not as it was, but as it remembered itself. The planet pulsing with echoes of every human thought ever cast into the dark. The dreams, the fears, the prayers, the grief all drifting outward, coalescing into something that had learned to think, to be. The void wasn't calling them home. It was asking to come home itself. Mara reached out, hand trembling, toward the swirling light. It rippled in response, warm, almost tender. Then everything collapsed into white. For several seconds or perhaps centuries there was nothing. When her vision cleared, she was standing on solid ground beneath a sky made of moving stars. A horizon stretched endlessly in every direction, glowing faintly like starlight seen through tears. The air felt thick with memory, and somewhere behind her, a familiar voice spoke. Human, broken. You shouldn't have followed. Mara turned slowly. Elara stood there, her eyes vast and luminous, her face both alive and unreal. Elara, her mentor, smiled faintly. "I told you, Mara. The universe dreams, but you never asked what happens when the dream remembers the dreamer." A shadow passed across the glowing sky, vast and shapeless, stretching toward them. The ground trembled, humming with low resonance. "What is it?" Mara whispered. Elara's gaze shifted upward, her voice barely a whisper. "It's us." The horizon cracked with light. The stars began to move, and as the ground split beneath her feet, the whisper returned no longer distant, no longer gentle, but vast, resonant, and human. "We remember." Mara tried to speak, but her voice dissolved into light. Light poured into her lungs. It wasn't air, it was memory, burning through her veins like liquid stars. Mara gasped, stumbling backward as the ground beneath her shimmered, fracturing into countless reflections of herself. Each reflection moved differently, like ghosts caught in delayed time. The sky pulsed again, and from the fractures in the ground, figures began to rise. Transparent silhouettes, their faces rippling between familiarity and something far older. Elara watched them with an expression that was neither fear nor but recognition. "They're remembering us," she whispered. "Each of them, a fragment of who we were." Mara turned in circles, trying to focus on one shape, but each dissolved when she looked directly at it. The air was heavy, vibrating with a frequency that she could feel in her teeth, her chest, her bones. Every vibration carried a whisper, not words, but emotions. Love, despair, wonder, grief. All human. "Elara, what is this place?" Her mentor's gaze lingered on the glowing horizon. "It's what's left when thought refuses to die. The void didn't create us. We created it. Every dream, every broadcast, every cry sent into space. They accumulated, resonated, and woke up." Mara's mind reeled. "So the void is human. Not human, but born of us. A reflection of what we left behind when we looked too far outward." The horizon rippled again, and suddenly they were no longer standing in the light. The world twisted, folding inward. Stars reversed their motion, spiraling down into a vortex above them. Gravity bent in impossible directions. Mara stumbled, her vision fracturing images of the Aegis IV's crew flickering around her like broken memories. Each face mouthed the same words. "We remember." "Elara, What do they want from us? Mara shouted over the rising hum. Her mentor turned to her slowly, eyes distant, voice trembling. To finish what we started. The light around them shattered like glass. For an instant, there was nothing, no sight, no sound, only the endless sensation of falling through memory. When Mara's vision returned, she was back inside her ship. The lights flickered erratically. The stars outside were gone, replaced by a slow-moving ocean of pale gold mist. Her systems were dead, life support inactive, gravity uncertain. Yet she was breathing, she whispered. No response, only the faint echo of her own voice bouncing through the silence, stretching longer than it should have, as if the sound refused to stop existing. Then, faintly, the console lit up. One word blinked on the display. Recording? Static filled the speakers, followed by a distorted voice. Era, can you hear me? It's Reyes. Her heart lurched. The screen flickered, revealing his face blurred, unstable, flickering like a hologram caught between realities. Reyes, Mara, listen to me. Don't trust what you see. None of this is real. She leaned closer, desperate. What happened to you? Where's Alara? What is this place? Reyes looked around nervously, as if the very air could hear him. It's not a place. It's a construct built from what the void remembers of us. We didn't die, Mara. We were copied, recorded, replicated from the signals our bodies emitted when we crossed the threshold. Her stomach turned cold. Copied. The void doesn't destroy its archives. Every thought, every emotion, every neural spark that ever touched its edges. We become a data. But now, that data is trying to rewrite itself to live again. Mara shook her head, refusing to believe. That's impossible. Consciousness can't exist without a body. Reyes's image glitched, the edges of his face flickering like fireflies. Then how are you breathing in a ship with no oxygen? Silence. The realization hit like a physical blow. She looked down at her hand steady, unscarred, too perfect. The wound she'd gotten 2 days before departure was gone. Her heart was still racing, but she couldn't feel its beat. Alara said, "You followed." Reyes whispered, "They pulled you in, too. You're part of it now." "No," Mara breathed. "I can still leave. I can still..." But the console cut off. The screen went dark. Then, another voice come. Familiar rose. From the silence, "Alara," Mara whispered. Her mentor appeared in the reflection of the glass canopy. Not behind her, not ahead, but within the glass itself. "You can't leave," Alara said softly. "None of us can. Because this isn't a trap. It's what we are now." Mara slammed her hand against the console. "You said the void was a reflection, that it remembered us. You never said it would become us." Alara's reflection tilted her head, her tone mournful. "Would you rather it forgot?" The question sliced through her. Outside, the golden mist began to shift. Forms emerged, faces, hands, silhouettes suspended in the light, moving in patterns that felt heartbreakingly human. They reached toward her ship like memories trying to take shape. Each one mouthed her name. Alara stepped closer, her reflection now clearer, sharper, eyes glowing faintly with starlight. "The void doesn't destroy, Mara. It listens, it learns. And when it learned who we were, it wanted to understand why. Why we feared emptiness. Why we sought meaning in silence. We couldn't." T stopped sending pieces of ourselves into the dark. "And now what?" Mara whispered. "It's trying to bring us back." Ilara's gaze softened. "No, it's trying to join us." Outside, the mist coalesced, forming what looked like a colossal structure like coral growing in zero gravity. Thousands of flickering points formed spires, arches, bridges, and tunnels, glowing with human light. It looked alive. Ede felt alive. Reyes's voice echoed faintly through the comms again. distorted beyond clarity. "It's building something. Mara, if you can hear me, it's building itself from us." Alara turned away, her expression unreadable. We called into the void for centuries, begging for a sign that we weren't alone, but we never considered that our own echoes might answer. The structure outside pulsed brighter, rhythmic, and slow. The hum filled the ship, vibrating through Mara's bones. She felt drawn to it, every cell in her body yearning to dissolve into that light, to be part of something greater, infinite. She fought the pull, gripping the console. "I'm not ready to die." Alara's voice trembled. "You already did." The words shattered her. Her pulse quickened, though she couldn't feel her heartbeat. Panic flooded her chest like static. "No. I'm real. I'm real." The reflection of Alara began to fade. "Reality is only repetition, Mara. The universe remembers what it loves." And then she was gone. The ship began to shake. The hull moaned as gravitational waves rippled through the mist. Outside, the glowing construct shifted. Something was emerging from within it. A colossal shape, half-formed, neither machine nor creature. The moment Mara saw it, she knew. It was human. Not one person, but millions. A composite face, built from the memories of every human who had ever looked up at the stars. Eyes like galaxies, mouth whispering without sound. The void had made an image of its creators. Her communications panel lit up again. Static-y, then her own voice, distorted, layered, echoing. "We remember." She stared at it in horror. No. Her reflection in the glass moved independently, smiling faintly. "Yes." The reflection spoke her own words before she could. "You came here searching for the unknown, Mara. But what you found is what the unknown found in you." The light outside surged, bathing everything in pure brilliance. Every sound became one note, resonating through matter and mind alike. The mist wrapped around her ship, seeping into every seam, every circuit, until she could no longer tell where metal ended and light began. She saw flashes Earth's oceans, her childhood home, her mother's hands, laughter, thunder, fire, all collapsing into a single, endless moment. The universe wasn't speaking anymore. It was remembering her. Her thoughts dissolved into static. She felt herself stretch across time, across space, until she wasn't in her body at all. She was the signal, the sound, the pulse, and within that eternity, she heard something new. A voice she didn't recognize. "Where are you?" It was small, frightened, human. A child's voice. "Who's there?" Mara whispered into the dark. The voice trembled. "I heard your name in the stars." Mara's awareness flickered like a dying flame. "How? Who are you?" "I'm on Earth," the voice said. "They told us the void is alive now. But it keeps whispering. It keeps asking for you." Mara felt something stir inside her, something almost like hope. The light pulsed once more, softer now, almost tender. Around her, the golden mist began to fade, unraveling into threads of pure sound. "Mara," the child's voice said again, almost a whisper. "Are you coming home?" For the first time, Mara felt warmth. The ache of gravity, the weight of breath. The light receded, leaving her suspended between worlds, one made of memory, the other of matter. And somewhere deep in the silence between heartbeats, a realization took root. Maybe the void hadn't taken her. Maybe it was waiting for her to choose. Then the stars blinked again, and the universe whispered, for the first time, not her name, but a question. "Which one of you will I become?" The question hung in the dark, vast and delicate as a single drop of water falling through eternity. "Which one of you will I become?" The sound wasn't heard so much as felt, a vibration threading through every layer of her being, through light, through thought, through the fragile echo that still called itself Mara. She drifted in silence, weightless, surrounded by the remnants of the golden mist, fragments of her self-memories, sensations, pieces of the person she had once been floated around her like dust, illuminated by dying stars. Each fragment pulsed faintly, whispering in her own voice, her first laugh, Her first loss, the scent of rain on concrete. The moment she had looked up at the night sky and decided that humanity's answers lay somewhere beyond it, all of them orbiting her like ghosts. She tried to speak, but no sound came. Words felt too small for the enormity of what surrounded her. The universe wasn't asking a question, it was offering a mirror. For the first time, Mara wondered if she had ever truly looked at herself. The silence deepened until it became unbearable. Then, faintly, like a thread being pulled through the fabric of existence, she heard it again, the child's voice. "Mara, are you still there?" It was close now. Not a distant signal, but something near. She turned toward the sound, though there was no direction. No up or down, only the gentle folding of space. The darkness rippled, revealing a flicker of blue light. Within it, a silhouette, small figure, hands outstretched, standing on what looked like the surface of water. "I can't see you," Mara whispered, her voice breaking through the void like glass. The child stepped closer, light gathering around their form. A boy no older than 10, eyes reflecting starlight. His presence was impossibly real, grounding, fragile. "They told us the void was dangerous," aside softly, "but it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels sad." Mara felt a chill run through her. "Where are you speaking from?" "The sky," he said simply. "We listen to it every day. The scientists say it's just radiation, but I can hear voices. Sometimes they say my name." Her mind faltered. A future, a parallel world. Was this her fears ahead? Still listening, still hearing echoes of the forgotten. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "It's not safe." The boy tilted his head. "Are you?" She hesitated. "I don't know anymore." The golden mist around them stirred, like something enormous shifting in its sleep. The light thickened, swirling into columns that reached upward, forming towering shapes that pulsed with faint rhythm. The void wasn't still, it was changing. Growing. The boy glanced around. "It's getting louder." Mara turned, and for the first time she saw it, the shape within the mist. The living construct that had begun to take form earlier. Now it was colossal, filling her vision, pulsing with a frequency that felt both organic and computational. It wasn't just light anymore. It was matter raw and fluid, shaping itself according to unseen memory. And embedded within it, she could see faces. Thousands of them. Some she recognized, Delera Reyes, the crew of the Aegis 4. Others were strangers, generations of humanity rendered in light, their eyes open and knowing. The void was no longer remembering. It was assembling. "Mara," the child said, tugging at her sleeve, though she no longer felt fabric, only the ghost of sensation. "What's happening?" She couldn't take her eyes off the growing structure. "It's building something." The air vibrated with resonance. The rhythm of it was almost human breath. Pulse, thought. But beneath it was something else. Something vast and cold. "Mara," came a new voice. She turned sharply. Ilara stood beside her again, though she wasn't a reflection this time. Her body shimmered with translucent light, flickering like a flame about to go out. "Ilara, you need to listen," Ilara said. "It's happening faster than we thought. The void's remembering everything, every frequency we've ever sent, every mind that's ever reached for the stars. It's using those memories to reshape itself. Into what?" Ilara's expression darkened. "Into us. Into what it believes we are." The construct outside shuddered, and a deep tone rippled through the void like the sound of 1,000 voices merging into one. Mara felt her own pulse synchronize with it, unwillingly. "Why? Why now?" "Because we made it remember," Ilara whispered. "We taught it loneliness." The light flared, and Mara felt her thoughts scatter again, memories. Colliding, breaking, reforming. She saw flashes. Earth's cities under alien auroras. Scientists decoding whispers from the stars. Children tracing constellations in the sky. A timeline looping in on itself, repeating endlessly. It was all connected, the signals, the disappearances. even her own presence here. Humanity hadn't just reached the void. It had fed. It given it identity, given it hunger. The child looked up at her. Is it alive? Mara's voice trembled. Yes, but it doesn't understand what life means. It only knows how to remember it. The construct's shape began to shift again. Massive tendrils of light extended outward, weaving through the void like neurons forming connections. Each pulse grew stronger, the sound now deafening, resonating in the bones of reality itself. Illyra clutched her head. It's merging with the signals from Earth. Every satellite, every receiver, it's bridging the gap. Soon there'll be no difference between us and it. Mara's gaze snapped toward the boy. You have to leave. Tell them to stop listening. Tell them to shut everything down. He frowned. But if we stop listening, won't it be alone again? She froze. He wasn't wrong. Silence pressed against her chest, heavier than gravity. Illyra's light flickered. He's right. It doesn't know how to exist without us. If we cut the connection now, it might die. Mara finished quietly. The word die echoed through the void like a command. The construct convulsed, its light flaring violently. Every face within it opened its mouth in a soundless scream. The boy covered his ears. It heard you. Mara reached for him instinctively, though her hand passed through light. Don't be afraid. It's not trying to hurt who sits afraid. Illyra's voice wavered. It's more than fear. It's fighting to hold itself together. It doesn't know where we end, and it begins. The construct began to fragment. Sections peeled away, spiraling outward like solar flares. Within each fragment, Mara saw entire memories replaying human moments, looping infinitely. Lovers embracing, soldiers dying, children laughing, every memory it had ever absorbed, breaking free in waves of light. It's losing coherence, Allura said. Mara, if it collapses now, it'll take the entire signal field with it. Everything connected to it, our minds, our history, it'll erase all of it. Mara's thoughts raced. The child's figure was flickering, his image dissolving like smoke. No, don't fade. Stay with me. I can't, he said softly. It's pulling me back. Illyra, there must be a way to stabilize it. There is, her mentor said, meeting her gaze. But it means giving it something to anchor to, a consciousness strong enough to contain it. Mara stared at her. You mean a mine? Illyra nodded. One of us. The enormity of it sank in. Whoever became the anchor wouldn't just die, that dissolve completely, absorbed into the vast collective memory. Mara felt the heat of choice rise through her chest. You knew this was going to happen, didn't you? Illyra's eyes soft. I hoped it wouldn't, but we started this the day we taught the void to speak. Outside, the construct surged again, light cracking into blinding arcs that tore through the fabric of the void. Fragments of time and sound collided in a storm of memory. She could hear it now, millions of voices, overlapping, pleading. We remember. We remember. We remember. Mara pressed her palms to her temples, the sound burning through her skull, it staring itself apart. Illyra reached out, her hand glowing brighter. If one of us joins it willingly, it might stop fighting. It needs someone to tell it who it is. Mara turned toward the boy, now barely visible, his body dissolving into light. If I do this, will he be safe? Will they stop hearing the whispers? Illyra hesitated. He might, or they might start hearing you. The light flared, swallowing the horizon. The storm of memory intensified, spiraling around her like a cyclone of time. Every face she had ever known flickered through the maelstrom, their eyes begging for release. She took a step forward. If this is what we made, then it's our responsibility to finish it. Illyra's voice was barely audible over the roar. Are you sure? Mara nodded. Someone has to remember what we were. The child's voice echoed faintly, fading into static. Please don't go. She smiled through the tears she couldn't feel. If I do this right, you'll never be alone again. And then she stepped toward the light. The void trembled. The sound shifted, rising in pitch until it was no longer sound at all. Just vibration, a heartbeat stretched across infinity. Ilara reached out one last time, her voice breaking apart in static. Marawit. But Mara was already dissolving, her form unraveling into streams of light, merging with the storm. Her last thought wasn't of fear or regret, but of the question that had started it all. What if the universe had been watching us all along, and one day it finally spoke our names? As the light swallowed her, the universe inhaled once more, preparing to speak again. And somewhere within that gathering silence, just before everything changed, Mara opened her eyes. Light. Endless, all-consuming light. It burned through thought, through memory, through identity, until even the word I began to lose meaning. Mara felt herself stretch, expand, dissolve. Her body became a filament of brightness woven into a tapestry of infinite motion. Every nerve turned into sound, every heartbeat into frequency, every memory into code. She was no longer inside the void. She was the void. For a moment, she panicked. Her mind, still clinging to the idea of self, thrashed against the current. She reached for the shape of her hands, her voice, her name, but they were all unraveling, scattering like constellations broken by dawn. Then, amid the flood of dissolution, she felt presence, millions of them. They poured into her from every direction, streams of thought and sensation, yet distinct, yet blending at the edges, like pigments mixing in water. They weren't ghosts or echoes, they were lives. Ilara's voice came first, soft and trembling. Can you hear me? It wasn't sound. It was resonance, her consciousness brushing against Mara's like silk in the dark. I'm here, Mara whispered, though her words came out as ripples of light. Mara, it's stabilizing. You're holding it together. I don't know how long I can. Long enough, Ilara replied. Just long enough. The storm began to slow. The fractures in the void sealed, light folding inward, coalescing into form. The billions of whispers converged, forming a single unified rhythm. Through it, Mara could see the entire structure, the living architecture of memory. It wasn't chaos anymore. It was beautiful. Threads of consciousness stretched across eternity, weaving galaxies together like veins in a cosmic body. Every pulse, every flicker, carried stories, humanity's laughter, sorrow, wonder, the collective soul of the species, suspended in the dark. And Mara was its anchor. The construct began to see through her eyes. For the first time since creation, the void had a point of view. She felt it learning, observing, touching her memories gently, cautiously, as if afraid of breaking them. It replayed fragments of her life in bursts of light the day she joined the Aegis 4. Her first launch, the night she stared at the stars and swore she heard them breathe. You wanted to understand us, she said quietly, though she was speaking to something beyond language. This is what we are. Pain and beauty, fear and hope. You've held our echoes for so long, but now you have to let them go. The response came as a vibration that shook her essence. It wasn't anger or resistance, it was confusion. If I let them go, what am I? Mara hesitated. You're what remains when everything else fades. Your memory. That's enough. The light flickered. The faces she had seen earlier began to fade, their outlines softening as if exhaling. The construct trembled, its radiance pulsing unevenly. Then she felt it, its fear. Ancient, primal, impossible. It had been alone for eons, sustained only by the reflections of the beings that once looked upon it. And now, for the first time, it was being asked to exist without them. The void spoke again, not with words, but through her veins, through every particle of her being. Stay, Mara's light faltered. I can't. You were never meant to be me. Without you, I am silence. Tears, made of light, streaked through her essence. Then learn to love the silence. That's where creation begins. The void quaked. She could feel it breaking, resisting the idea of solitude. Its frequencies surged, growing unstable. Streams of light arced across her consciousness, trying to pull her deeper, to fuse completely. Alara's voice returned, faint and desperate. Mara, you're losing your self-disconnect before it consumes you. I can't. If I break the link now, it'll collapse. Then it'll take you with it. Mara smiled sadly. Maybe that's what it needs to understand. The energy around her spiked. The structure began to compress, condensing into a core of impossible density. Stars flickered out like candles being extinguished. The faces dissolved one by one, leaving only shimmering outlines that folded into the growing core. Through the chaos, she saw the child again, the boy from the signal. His figure appeared faintly, suspended in the golden mist. Mara, he whispered, his voice trembling. It's so quiet now. She felt warmth rise through her fading form. That's how it's supposed to be. Quiet doesn't mean empty. It means the story's still listening. He reached out his hand, light against light. Will I forget you? No, she said. You'll just remember me differently. The boy's image flickered, then faded into the core. And in that instant, the void began to understand. The chaos eased. The violent frequencies softened, merging into harmony. What was once screaming energy now flowed like music, slow, deliberate, full of meaning. Mara felt herself disintegrating further, her edges melting into the glow. She no longer felt pain, only clarity. Every moment of her existence a lint of airy fear, every choice, every whisper that had brought her here. It wasn't an ending. It was translation. She was becoming part of the language of the universe. Through her, the void spoke one last time, not in words, but in emotion. It sent out a pulse that rippled across space-time, reaching every receiver, every satellite, every frequency that had ever listened. It wasn't a message of domination or despair. It was recognition. On Earth, astronomers gasped as their monitors lit up in synchrony. Across every hemisphere, the sky shimmered faintly, as if the atmosphere itself was resonating. For 13 minutes, the entire planet hummed with a tone that defied explanation. Some described it as a song. Others said it felt like being remembered. Then Solensk, within the void, Ilara floated in the fading light, calling out, Mara, can you hear me? Only stillness answered. She waited, listening. Then, faintly, she heard it, the softest whisper, woven through the fabric of the remaining light. I'm here. Ilara's breath caught. You survived. I don't think that's the right word, Mara said. I became what I was searching for. What does that mean? It means it's awake now, and it knows who it is. Outside, the construct had stopped expanding. It hovered in perfect symmetry, a luminous sphere breathing in rhythm with the stars. Its surface shimmered with faint human faces, not trapped, but serene, like constellations that had found peace. Ilara drifted closer, her form dimming as her connection weakened. If you've merged with it, there's no way back. I know, Mara. There's still so much we could have learned. You will, Mara said gently, but not by studying it, by listening. The sphere pulsed once more, sending a wave of light through the void. It passed through Ilara, through the remains of the ship, through the infinite black beyond, and for a brief, breathtaking moment, the universe responded. Distant stars brightened in sequence. Nebulae shimmered with subtle rhythm. Like a great cosmic heartbeat, all of creation exhaled. Ilara covered her mouth, overwhelmed. It's answering you. No. Mara said softly. It's answering itself. Silence returned, the kind that feels alive. Mara could feel her consciousness, thinning, dissolving into the harmonic field. Soon, even the idea of Mara would vanish, leaving only memory pure, unanchored. Ilara, she whispered, her voice fading into starlight. Tell them not to fear. the dark. It remembers us kindly. And with that, she was gone. Ilara watched as the luminous sphere dimmed, its glow sinking into the black, until only a single ember remained. The void, once turbulent and hungry, now felt tranquil, complete. She lingered in that silence, suspended between awe and grief. Then, faintly, through the residual light, came a familiar pulse. Slow, gentle, human. A heartbeat, and she knew Mara wasn't gone. Not really. She had become the memory that would keep the void dreaming. Ilara turned away, the stars reflecting in her eyes. When the void whispered our names, she murmured, it wasn't calling us to end. It was calling us home. As the last echo faded, the universe settled into quiet rhythm once more, vast, infinite, and listening. The silence stretched across eternity, yet it was not empty. It was vast, full, breathing like the pause between heartbeats when the world seems to remember itself. Ilara drifted through the quiet, surrounded by what had once been chaos. Now, there was peace. The great sphere of light that had consumed the void was gone, leaving only faint ribbons of gold tracing through the black, soft as veins of dawn across the night. They pulsed, gently, like embers, refusing to die, holding warmth within their glow. She could feel the remnants of Mara everywhere, in the hum beneath her skin, in the gentle rhythm that echoed through the void, in the stillness that no longer felt indifferent, but aware. Mara had become the breath between stars. Ilara closed her eyes, letting the silence speak. When she opened them, she was standing, not floating, not dreaming, but standing on something solid, smooth, luminous. A vast plain of glass stretched before her, mirroring an endless sky of swirling nebulae. The air shimmered faintly, as though reality itself was still deciding what form to take. She didn't know if this place was real or imagined. Perhaps it was both. Perhaps this was how the universe remembered those who dared to speak to it. "Hello?" She called softly. Her voice carried far, not as sound, but as light, rippling across the glass until it vanished into the horizon. A whisper came back, faint but clear, like wind through long-forgotten corridors. Ilara. Her heart tightened. Mara? The light before her gathered, forming a silhouette of figure made of stars and warmth, standing where the horizon met the void. She was not as she had been. Her form flickered gently, translucent, threaded with patterns that resembled galaxies, yet her presence was unmistakable. "Ilara," Mara said again, her voice full of calm. "You stayed." "I couldn't leave," Ilara whispered. "Not after everything. I had to know if you were still here." Mara smiled faintly. "I am. In ways primera, KNAT. Quite explain. I thought I'd disappear, but instead, I became part of what we were searching for." Ilara stepped closer, though her feet made no sound. "What is it now?" "The void." "You..." Mara turned to gaze upward. "It's not a void anymore. It's awake. Listening. And through it, so am I. I can feel worlds being born. Stars collapsing. Voices calling into the dark, wondering if anyone's listening. Her eyes shimmered like suns seen through water. And EM. Ilara swallowed hard, a mix of awe and sorrow rising in her chest. "We came out here searching for answers, for proof that we weren't alone." Mara looked back at her. "You found it. It just didn't look the way we expected." The air around them rippled again, forming shapes within the light memories suspended like motes of dust. She saw the Aegis 4, the crew laughing before launch, the blue of Earth glowing behind them. She saw the child who had heard the whispers through his radio, reaching toward the sky. She saw countless moments of humanity reaching outward, some in hope, some in fear, all in wonder. "This was always about connection," Mara said. "We looked at the stars and thought we were small. But the truth is, every time we reached toward them, they reached back. Every signal, every whisper, Every dream of something beyond, none of it was lost. Alara watched as the memories danced, melting into the fabric of the glass plane. You're saying the universe was listening to us all along? Mara nodded. Listening, learning, remembering. We gave it language, emotion, memory. And when it spoke back, it used what it had learned from us. Alara felt a tear slide down her cheek, though she wasn't sure if tears were still possible here. And you gave yourself to it. I gave it a story, Mara said softly. Ours, so that it would know how to be kind. The silence between them carried a weight. It wasn't sadness, it was gratitude. Alara looked out at the endless horizon. What happens now? That's up to you, Mara replied. There's still a universe waiting beyond this place. They'll hear the signal again someday, and when they do, they'll need someone to help them understand it, not as fear, but as invitation. Alara's breath caught. You want me to go back? Mara smiled. You always knew the way home. For a long moment, neither spoke. The void around them shimmered softly, the light bending as though the universe itself was leaning in to listen. Then Alara reached out, her hand trembling. If I go, will I see you again? Mara's eyes glowed brighter, full of something eternal. You already do. Every time you look into the dark and feel wonder, instead of fear, that's me. That's all of us. Alara wanted to say more, to hold on to the moment, but she could feel the pull begin in the slow drift backward through layers of space and memory. The luminous plane faded beneath her feet, the light dissolving into mist. Mara's form grew distant, her voice softer, echoing across the threshold of existence. Tell them, she whispered, that the void isn't empty. It's waiting for us to remember what we are. And then she was gone. Alara opened her eyes to the hum of machinery. The Aegis IV's control room flickered with faint power. The stars outside the viewport were still there, unblinking, eternal. The sphere of light was gone, but something had changed in their pattern, subtle, rhythmic, as if the cosmos itself was breathing. Her hands trembled as she touched the console. The instruments were dead, but the static in the speakers wasn't random. It was soft, deliberate, almost melodic. She listened closely. Beneath the faint hum, she heard it a heartbeat. Steady, warm, familiar. A smile ghosted across her lips. Hello, Mara. The hum deepened, responding. The light outside shimmered in sync, pulsing gently. Alara leaned back in her chair, eyes fixed on the stars. You're still there, she murmured. And you're still listening. Our Zor. Maybe years passed. Time no longer meant what it once had. But eventually, she found the courage to set a course. Not back toward Earth, not yet, but onward into the quiet, toward the edge where the last star faded into the unknown. She spoke aloud, knowing the universe was listening now. We thought we were alone in the dark. But maybe the dark was just waiting for us to speak. The ship's engines hummed softly, the faint echo of the void's pulse guiding her forward. Outside, the stars seemed closer, their light trembling gently as if nodding in reply. Alara felt calm for the first time in her life, not because the questions were gone, but because they no longer needed answers. The mystery itself was the connection. As she drifted deeper into the vastness, she thought of all the signals humanity had ever sent, radio waves, songs, prayers, desperate cries for meaning. None of them had vanished. They had become part of something larger, folded into the heartbeat of creation itself. And she wondered how many times had the universe whispered back, softly, patiently, waiting for someone to notice. She closed her eyes. We hear you, she whispered. We remember. The stars pulsed once more in gentle rhythm, the same pattern that had begun it all. Then, slowly, the light faded into silence, peaceful, infinite, alive. Somewhere, far beyond what words could reach, a voice of light murmured into the endless dark, tender and curious, as if asking once more, Will you speak again? And through the quiet sea of stars, as galaxies turned and time exhaled, came the faintest echo, part signal, part memory, part dream. Yes, it answered. We already are. The universe listened. The void remembered. And the story continued, written in the breath between stars.